The Daytona 500 is now in our rear view mirror, or I guess rear view camera to be exact, and that means the 2023 NASCAR season is officially underway. And there will be ups and downs for each and every driver throughout the season. So today I'm going to be starting a series that will document these ups and downs for each driver, and that is our weekly NASCAR Power Rankings. So how this is going to work is each and every week we are going to go through each and every driver and rank them based on their power within the NASCAR universe, or a better word would probably be momentum, how I feel there. So a driver that just came off a win or a great finish will be valued higher than a driver that did not have a good finish. But let's say that driver has had a string of good finishes and just gets a mid finish, they'll be favored more than a driver who just has one good finish and a lot of bad finishes. You guys know how a power rankings works, you or at least have an idea of it. So here we go. Without further ado, let's get right into it, starting with 4 drivers that I think did not have a big enough sample size for me to really rank, and that is Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, and Austin Dillon. All of these drivers wrecked out early in the race, and it's really hard to gauge Daytona 500 even if you finish the race, but especially when you don't really even get a start of the race. I'm not really going to talk about these guys. The first driver I want to talk about though is Harrison Burton, which I was somewhat surprised that he is this low. I kind of thought Daytona was kind of his, place to have a decent race. We saw his first career Cup Series race in that 21. He had a bad fast car, so I figured if nothing else, Wood Brothers always seems to be able to prepare a decent super speedway car, so I figured they'd be able to do that. And I don't know what the case was here. I'm not even sure I saw Harrison Burton in that 21 at any point in the race. It just felt like any other race in the season where you don't really think about Harrison Burton unless he wrecks. So disappointing race for him for sure. This is one that he had circled on the calendar. Chase Briscoe, he's another one that I didn't really see. I guess he did lead some laps according to the stats, but I didn't really notice him. But I'm not really sure he's a super speedway driver. He's not somebody that I look to at the super speedways and think, oh yeah, he's going to have a decent race, or he'll be somebody I have to watch out for. Michael McDowell in the 34 is somebody I am very disappointed in, as the former 500 champ was a non-factor. I mean, I genuinely did not see him at all this race. I have higher expectations for somebody who's won this race, somebody who has earned a reputation to be a great super speedway racer. And yeah, I'm disappointed in Michael McDowell. Moving on to Ty Gibbs, a very quiet day. I don't think this is something we should get used to, because I'm sure Ty Gibbs will find a way, whether it's with his performance or other things, to get in the news. But a quiet day from the 54 nevertheless. Another guy that we did not hear much from is the other rookie, Noah Gragson. But his Wendy's car was fired, so I put him on top of Ty Gibbs. Moving along to Justin Haley, another super speedway, a guy when we go to a super speedway, I expect him to do well. Justin Haley did not have that crazy of a day. He got caught up in a crash, and that was pretty much it for his day. Moving on to Todd Gillen, we talked about his teammate. He nearly won his dual race, and that's what gets him up this high. I will factor in previous races. The dual race was a race, and he nearly won that race, but the moment was a little bit too big, and he wasn't able to get the win. But I think just the performance that I saw from him in that dual race put him above these guys who I genuinely did not hear from the entire weekend. At least I heard and noticed Todd Gillen. But as far as the 500 goes, was a non-factor. Moving on to Denny Hamlin, who a lot of people probably think is pretty low. He had a pretty bad race by his standards. Yeah, he finished in the top 20 or whatever, which is okay for a super speedway race. But he's a 3-time Daytona 500 champion, and again, like most of the people at this part of the list, was really a non-factor. Sure, he was up front at times. Everybody gets up front at times. It's a matter of how long you stay up, and Denny Hamlin's one of the best at staying up there. I mean, the man literally will drop to the back purposely because he knows he can get back to the front. Today was not one of those days, and that's why I have him lower than some of the other guys on this list. Moving on to the defending 500 champion, Austin Cindric. He didn't really make much of an effort to defend his title, and nothing really stood out for me. But yeah, that's just how it is at a super speedway race. You're going to have, it's a completely random thing. You got people who are more talented, but really anybody in the field, any given super speedway race can have a good day, and Austin Cindric did not really have that good of a day. Somebody who did have a good day is Cody Ware in the 51. He's always able to get up here. He's able to be slow enough to miss all the carnage and make it up to 14th. So shout out to Rick Ware. Now go back to being trash. I mean, if you want to be good, be good. Moving on to William Byron. This is kind of the last one. There's maybe another one on this list that I would consider a non-factor, is a word I've been repeating 5,000 times. He got caught up in that late race caution, which he was up front when that happened, but really was a non-factor. I didn't really think about him much throughout the race. I do give William Byron props though for actually making it to the full race length. He has a knack for, in the Daytona 500, wrecking out early or getting caught up in some bad wrecks late and not making it there, but he did make it through the full 200 laps. It just was overtime, so did not get the finish that he wanted. Moving on to Ryan Preece though, another guy who did not get the finish he would have hoped, but I saw him up front multiple times throughout the race. He was up front when he unfortunately got wrecked or got caught up in a wreck. And yeah, with his performance in the Clash kind of factored in there, I'm excited to see what this 41 team can do. I've talked about it in another video. I think he could definitely break out this year and make a playoff run. Moving on to Austin Dillon, he worked well with his teammate Kyle Busch. I was very impressed with that, and was up front late, which is like, Austin Dillon is the king of, yeah, maybe we don't hear from him the entire race. He just ends up in the top 10, or in this case, ends up front at the end of the race. That's how he won the Daytona 500 last year. That's how, or not the 500, sorry, the Daytona race last year. That's how he won the Daytona 500 back in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. And yeah, he dumped Almirola, but he found himself up front late in the race and got the win. So he has that knack. You know, he's not the most flashiest Super Speedway driver, but I think he's a pretty solid. He just didn't have the luck and ended up getting wrecked out. You know, that's how it goes. Moving on to Corey LaJoie, which he finished 18th, which doesn't sound good, but for Spire Motorsports, that's a pretty good finish. So that little momentum boost, I guess. They aren't happy about it. They know they can do better at super speedways, but I just have a sneaky suspicion that we will see that 7-car in victory lane. It's going to be a great day. I'm going to be a very happy camper, and I think a lot of NASCAR fans will be happy to see LaJoie get that win. Sorry, my chair is very loud. Bubba Wallace, who it definitely was not a non-factor, but kind of quiet day for somebody who I think is one of the better super speedway drivers in the garage. He seems to be able to find himself up front a lot. But he was up front there at the end until that late race caution. He got caught up in it and didn't get the finish that he wanted or deserved, but he had a decent day for sure. But we're going into Auto Club, a racetrack that is a 2-mile track, just like the one, not just like, but a lot like the one at Michigan, that Bubba had a fast car and competed for the win. It was the second fastest car that race, and if not for Stuart Haas having a little extra oomph in that 4 car, could have won that for sure. So keep an eye out for him this week. Moving on to Eric Almirola, who finished in the back but was up front late, caused the big one, but if not for that, he would have had a great day. He started 4th and was really up front. I can't really think of many times he wasn't up front. Good start for the year, Eric Almirola. He's one of the more quiet, decent, super speedway drivers. And on to his teammate Kevin Harvick in the 4. Harvick finished 12th in his final Daytona 500. Didn't make any waves, but again, a solid start to the year. Daniel Suarez in the 99. I'm not sure he made many friends this weekend, especially Kyle Busch. He might have made an enemy there, but he still finished up in 7th place, which is a solid top 10 start for the year. And don't forget, he was very close to winning Auto Club last year. I mean, he made a mental error or a physical error, whatever. He made an error at the end of that race that allowed Larson to get it. But all in all, he had a fast car, and don't sleep on him to have a fast car once again. I would also ditto that for Eric Jones. Moving on to Kyle Busch, who did not have a good result. I don't think he's happy with that result whatsoever. I know he's not happy because he's made it very clear in his media availability. All in all, it was a rough weekend for the 8 team. Let's get a little recap though of Kyle Busch's weekend. He was wrecked by Daniel Suarez in the duels, which we just mentioned. Got a speeding penalty mid-race, but with a couple laps to go, and he went a lap down because of that speeding penalty. But with a couple laps to go, we saw him up front thanks to some great teamwork that I mentioned with him and Austin Dillon, and almost winning his first Daytona 500. It eludes him again though, unfortunately, thanks to Daniel Suarez once again. Moving on to another Kyle Larson, who I think had an outstanding day, considering Kyle Larson is somebody that I never think about at a super speedway. I think of him as a bad super speedway racer, and he's not. Like, everyone's a decent. He just seems to have the worst luck at these tracks. He doesn't seem to have quite the abilities of a Ricky Stenhouse, I guess, or somebody else at these tracks. Of course, he's better than Ricky Stenhouse in every other way, shape, and form of racing, but still, you get my point. He doesn't have that knack at a super speedway, but he had a fast car from day one. He obviously qualified second in qualifying and was just uncharacteristically present at a super speedway, you know. He had an impact on the outcome. He pushed Ricky Stenhouse to that win, metaphorically. Did not get the result of pushing him. Didn't get second, but he got an okay finish. And honestly, just being as fast as he was this weekend, doing as well as he did in the Daytona 500, the best he's done in a while. I'm proud of him. And AJ Allmendinger, who I have on top of him, he finished 6th. That's a great finish. That's a great start to the year for AJ Allmendinger, his first full-time season since his JTG days. So I think that's a great finish that the team can look at. Hey, we finished top 10 in our first race. Let's build on that. Ryan Blaney is going to be number 9. You know, he didn't. I was also kind of surprised. He's a super speedway specialist, somebody that, or not a specialist, but somebody we consider to be great at these super speedways. But I was surprised at how much I didn't notice him. Well, that's because he got caught up in the first wreck. But somehow, by some miracle of God, this car finished 8th. That's all you need to know. In 8th place, I got Ross Chastain, who is coming off his 2nd place points finish. Kind of got that momentum coming over. And he didn't do anything outstanding, but a good solid finish. Not in any controversy. I think that's a great weekend for Ross Chastain. I can't fault him for that. And for that reason, he is 8th on the list. Coming in at 7 on the power rankings, Martin Truex Jr. coming off that win at the LA Clash, led some laps, got an okay middle of the pack finish. Decent. Despite finishing 22nd, I got Brad Keselowski, in 6th place on the power rankings. That might be a little high. He led the most laps of the race. You know, he was the most dominant car of the race. RFK was the most dominant car the entire race, and I think that is deserving of a high in the power rankings. He ran up front, large portion of the race, I believe won stage 1. I know he won a stage, I believe it was stage 1. It just looked bad fast, you know, and his teammate Christopher Buescher, who I have in 5th place here, he led a lot of laps as well, looked just as fast as his teammate, and got a much better finish in 4th. RFK, are they back? No, it's just a super speedway race. Roush, even in their down years, had bad races, or had bad fast cars at super speedways, but I have hope. I have hope for maybe a better season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. comes in at 4th place on my power rankings. He won the Daytona 500. How can you not have this man at the top of your power rankings? It's a huge momentum boost for any team, no matter what size. And it was actually, ironically, a quiet race. For most of the race, Ricky Stenhouse is somebody we are used to seeing up front and by stage 1 wrecking somebody or something like that, but it was a really quiet, methodic race from Ricky until we got to the end of the race, where he made the perfect moves, made the right moves, had some help from Larson and Christopher Bell, and won the race. It was a great win. I'm happy to see him win. Will this be the last time we see him until he's eliminated? Probably. In 3rd place, Alex Bowman. He had a great LA Clash where he was top 5 pretty much all day, had a great Daytona week, won the pole, and was up front a lot of this race, and ended up front at the end of this race, getting a top 5, which I think is a great day. You kind of got accustomed to him getting the pole and just kind of dipping most years, but this year he stuck around, and I think that's a great sign for this team. Shout out to Alex Bowman. I think he could be up here on the top of these power rankings here for a while. Moving on though to 2nd place in the power rankings, I got Christopher Bell, who finished strong last season, was fast in the dual races, and was fast in the Daytona 500, and got a 3rd place finish as a result, leading some laps as well. I feel like there's something to be said about starting off the season in the biggest race of the year and having a great finish. I think that really does a lot for a team, and I think it'll do a lot for the 20 and the 48 and the 22, who is 1st on my power rankings. And to put it simply, there just really isn't a reason for me to take him off of the top spot. He just won the championship, he had a decent LA Clash, and he finished 2nd in the Daytona 500. What reason is there for me to take him off the top of the list? Hopefully I'll find a reason at Auto Club, but Joey Logano is currently the number 1 driver in NASCAR, and that hurt to say. Let me know what you guys think about my ratings or rankings, whatever. Did I rank some people too high? Did I rank some people too low? I did, but that's just a part of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. The What If is almost here.
Carl Edwards could lock himself into the chase for the Nextel Cup if he hangs on and wins it tonight. It would be his second win in 2007, and Carl Edwards will come down and take the checkered flag out of turn 4 as a winner in Bristol, Tennessee.